Mask up. That's the message from New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian, who says the next few weeks are critical in containing the virus. Are we listening?
Bondi, 4 p.m. yesterday. Australia's most famous beach, and a feeling of déjà vu. A lesson in how not to socially distance. A packed grassy knoll, the shaking of hands, and the only masks being worn were by the police.
I trust the vast majority of people in our state to do the right thing.
The New South Wales Premier has strongly recommended wearing masks in supermarkets, shops, churches and on public transport, but she stopped short of making them compulsory. So are people following the recommendations today, or do we need to make masks mandatory in New South Wales?
We're both now 80s, so it's essential for us, but it's a two-way thing. I'm protecting you. If you're wearing it, you're protecting me.
I think it's necessary, and I think it's a great initiative.
You should do what I do. I always have a mask in my pocket. If I feel uncomfortable about a situation, I can wear it if I feel that my social distancing is being compromised.
Gladys Berejiklian is doing it, and so is the Prime Minister. Day one of stronger mask recommendations, and many Sydney-siders had taken note. Roughly half of the people we saw this morning had covered their faces.
It's not hurting anyone popping a mask on.
You don't know who you're interacting with, and anyone could be vulnerable to it, so it's good precaution today.
But not everyone is on board.
I think there should always be a freedom for people to make their choices.
It's a bit like cutting off your nose to spite your face if you don't, use the available methods like face masks to try and control the disease. So
Professor Raina McIntyre is an infectious disease expert from the University of New South Wales. She's concerned that many people are living their lives like everything is back to normal. But we're far from it, and no state wants to go down the same route as Victoria.
People should view masks as a tool to help to retain our freedoms rather than one that takes away our freedom. If we used a mask, maybe we can avoid a lockdown.
In a time like this, we need to not be thinking so much about ourselves, but more about the people that could be worse affected than we could.
The New South Wales Premier has also recommended that all non-essential activities be reconsidered, and hospitality staff and other businesses who have regular contact with customers should also cover up. We're 6 months into this pandemic, and it's become clear that when we can't practice social distancing, masking up is one of the only tools we have to fight the disease. If you're within 1.5 metres of someone with the virus and neither of you are wearing a mask, there's a high risk of transmission. If you're wearing a mask, the risk is reduced slightly. If the infected person is wearing a mask and you're not, there's a low risk of transmission, and that's reduced even further if both of you are wearing a mask.
Do you think it should be compulsory in New South Wales?
I think it should be, yes.
How do we get rid of it otherwise?
People aren't even socially distancing, so I think, mandating it might make a difference.
But if there's thousands of people congregating and no one's wearing a mask, well, that comes down to self-responsibility.
Let's face it, the social distancing in states where there's not much disease around, people aren't doing it. So what? Do you want to wait for, to have thousands of cases a day before you think about it, or, take proactive measures?